What's going on, everybody? Just another day, right? It's Friday here. I was off today. Still a busy day. Friday is one of my shift days. Um, so been working hard at that all day. Got a little bit of a sinus cold going on. I don't know where it came from, other than the weather here is crazy. Humidity's nuts. It's like 105 degrees outside with the heat index and everything. So it's a little crazy for me being out there all the time like that in that kind of heat, and then coming back into my cool house. It just affects me somehow. Um, anyway, I wanted to make a video real quick about, if you're weighing your options on private label and arbitrage, which one's better, which one has more cons, which cons are bigger, which pros are bigger. And you want to weigh the pros and cons, but at the same time, a con to me might be a pro to you, so it's kind of up to individuals themselves on how they do it. For me, just getting started in the last couple of months on arbitrage full time, arbitrage is a little easier right now. It's, but at the end of the day, I do want to get into private label. I have a plan for that. And before I go any further, we are talking about private label in 2018. We're not talking about getting a crap product from China, slapping a label on it and going. That business model is gone. If anybody's telling you any different, they're trying to sell you something. I can guarantee you. And if you have watched any of my videos, you know how I feel about that. I think that the Chinese stuff it should have never been a good product business model. It should have never been one. In the end, it hurt people. It hurt financially. I'm speaking of, it hurt people financially. A lot of people got money, got wealthy off of it, true enough. But it should have never been a good model in that the product sucked, okay? There was no good product, 90% of the stuff on Alibaba, DHgate, and all those other sites is garbage. And we all know it. We all know it. Just some people decided to sell that and make money on it, and that's fine. I'm not knocking them. I tried it myself. So I'm not saying anything wrong against it, other than we all should have known that it wasn't going to last. It was a small, ripple as far as retail goes. So customers are not stupid. Customers 90% of the time do their due diligence and know what they want to buy when they get on Amazon. They're not just, there are all those customers that are impulse buyers, and I think that's what it kind of went toward, was impulses. I need this or that, and there it is. But they're not stupid is my point. So getting into some of the pros and cons, I'll start with private label. To me, these are the pros of private label. If you do your research right, which if you know anything about my channel or me myself, research is the number one thing to start a business or maintain it or grow it. And that goes into your inventory choices, that goes into your inventory period. If you're doing private label, the research in the front end is going to be a lot harder than researching arbitrage. You're basically, and like I said, we're talking about domestic private label. We're talking about finding something that's selling good, and then finding something that we can private label. A good example would be like supplements or weight loss things. There's plenty of companies that private label that locally, or not locally, but domestically. Grocery is starting to come up with a lot more as well. I'm going to use the example of coconut oil. Okay, so a lot of people, that's a hot seller on Amazon. If you Google it, or if you look at it, they're all highly ranked in grocery or in health and beauty supplements. You can find those people to private label that pretty easily with a Google search. Okay, so it's more research to find everything that you're going to sell, because you're building it. It's not necessarily got a rank yet. Okay, but it has less competition, in my opinion, and that's something that's debatable. I might get disagreed on with that, but my point about it is that I'm not competing with the name brand coconut oil. I'm going to be competing in the same category, but I'm not going to be direct competition. I mean, at the end of the day, I am direct competition, but I'm not going to have 10 other sellers selling it with me, because I'm going to be the only one selling it. I'm going to be the only one private labeling it. So it's kind of like with the China thing. If you found a product that no one was selling and it was something that you thought would sell, then it would have made you a ton of money because nobody was selling it. But when everybody figured it out, they jumped into it, right? Okay, so it's the same way with the domestic thing. If you find something that you think might sell and you're willing to promote it, then you can private label it and be the only seller and you can brand it and all of that and go from there. So if they want to do it, they've got to brand it themselves to something else. It may be the same product, but it's going to be branded differently, if you see what I mean. So with the China stuff, it was all the same product. We were branding it differently, but it was the same product. They may differentiate and sell 2 instead of 1 or some little extra with it and try and make money that way. But at the end of the day, it was the same product. Okay, so personally, I think there's less competition in private label, and I'll get to why in a minute. Arbitrage, you might have 12 people selling it at the same time, same exact product. So it's more competition from the get-go. Another pro to private label is after you launch your product, you're pretty much just trying to promote it, and you're going to lose money in the beginning because you're going to have to spend money to promote it. But you're not having to, you don't have to promote. You do have to promote an arbitrage, or you can, to make your sales go up. But after launch with private label, you're just promoting and looking for your second line, your second product in your line, right? With arbitrage, you're constantly looking for more items. You've got your sellers that are clearance items that you found. You got your sellers that are, maybe something that you found on clearance or it's on sale or whatever, and you've bought a few of them to make money. But you're constantly having to find more product to grow it, right? Whereas with private label, you find a product and then you promote it, get your sales, and move on to the next one. Now you're promoting this one while you're launching this one, and you just keep moving. It's a little bit more streamlined. It's not as hard, it's not as tedious for sure, to continue that line as it is in arbitrage, where you're having to constantly find more stuff, right? So the margins are higher. That's another pro. The margins are higher in private label because of the fact you have less competition. You determine the price. I mean, I guess the market determines the price. If you're selling something for $30 and people ain't buying it, but you drop it to 25 and it's selling like hotcakes, then you know that 30 was too high. But it's easier to market test with that because you have no competition. Whereas with arbitrage, I kind of got to go with whatever the competition's doing. If I go above that, it's not going to sell quickly. If I go too below that, I'm going to cut myself short. So you kind of have to. You're at the mercy of the buy box. That's what I call it. You're at the mercy of whatever's, because it's already been on there. It's already selling. So the margins are higher with private label. And the repeatable things of private label are a little bit, I'm not going to say, let's just say that's a con. The first con, in my opinion, is that you do have to repeat it with private label. You're not going to make $1 million off one item. You're going to have to completely do that process all over again and build a second product in your line, right? So that is different and a little bit more difficult to do than with arbitrage, which already has a sales rank, already has a history. Chances are it's a brand that you're ungated in, so it's already got a name for itself. You're not going to have to really promote it as much unless you just want to put it on the top of the page. So you're able to just piggyback off of that and keep moving. Another thing that's a con with private label is the startup costs are way higher than arbitrage. I've talked about this before. Arbitrage, in my opinion, you need about $1,000 in arbitrage. You can easily triple that with private label, easily. In particular, if you're trying to do it domestically like I am, where a lot of, most of these reputable companies, they want you to have a minimum order, and you're going to come out of pocket pretty good at the beginning. That's including plus the promotion side. Whereas arbitrage, you're paying for your professional seller account, you're buying the items, and it's up to you how much you spend. You could theoretically do it with $100 in inventory. It's going to take longer to grow. It's going to take longer to move, but you could do it. Okay, so that's another con with private label, is it's going to take more to start. You're also going to have a good listing with good bullet points. It's going to have to be, have some differentiation in there that you're not going to have to worry about with arbitrage at all. As a matter of fact, with arbitrage, differentiation is I'm selling 2 instead of 1 a lot of times because nobody's doing that yet. So you can cut competition out by doing that. But with private label, you have to do that, because there's going to be other items in your category and in your same realm. So that is a little bit more work. And like I said before, On the front end with private label is a whole lot more research, a whole lot more work, but it is more beneficial in the outcome because you're going to have more margins and you're building a brand. You're building it from the ground up and it's yours. Okay. The last con I'm going to talk about with private label is it's a bigger risk. If you don't know, I started an item about 1.5 years ago, and thankfully I didn't lose every dime I put into it. I did get money back, but had I known what I know now, I wouldn't have, even jumped into it the way I did. The research was there. I've spent a lot of time researching, but then I jumped in, and sales were just steadily growing, and then it's like somebody said, "Hey, you know what? That item's crap," and it just died. It just died. Like in the middle of my inventory, it died. I'd already bought more and everything, and I was on my second. I think I was about to be on my third order, and it just died off. And I ended up with stuff that's still in my storage building right now. So I did break even though for the most part. I got about 80% of my money back. But had I known what I know now, I would have done it a lot differently. So it is a bigger risk. You do have a bigger risk of losing money. Whereas arbitrage, the sales rank's already there. You already know what the sales rank is. You already know this item sells whatever times a month. You're not having to build it. It's already there. All you got to do is worry about the competition, how much of that there is. So let's move to arbitrage, okay, which is where I'm at now. Some pros to that are the researching is easier. Like I said, because the sales rank's already there. Okay, all you're really doing is finding items that you can find locally or you can find online at a cheaper price. So you're already like half of the research is gone. You don't have to do over half the research that you would have to do with private label in the beginning because the sales rank's already there. It's already an established brand more than likely. All you got to do is find it cheaper, So now you do have to know what those ranks are, and you have to be able to determine competition and how much there is, and price history on whether or not that price is just an anomaly and it's there right now, or if it's been there and all that. But it is way less research than private label. Another pro to arbitrage is that there's more products to choose from. There just is. Excuse me. The problem with private label is that you're kind of limited. With the Chinese crap, we were limited to whatever was on the Chinese sites. With the domestic ones, you're not necessarily going to find a toy that you can private label that's selling good, because that's a Hasbro toy. You're not going to be able to do that. Trademark infringement, all that. But I'll go back to the coconut oil thing. You can find companies that will private label that pretty easily. So anyway, there's more product though. It's easier to find more product for arbitrage. Whereas with private label, you're probably going to start off with maybe one with two on the back burner, and then you're going to start your second one and have to find your third one, and then start your third one and have to find your fourth one, and so on. Whereas and it's going to have to be different products each time, or you're going to be doubling up on yourself. Whereas with arbitrage, it's pretty unlimited as far as if you're researching the right product and it's a good rank, you're going to sell it, depending on if the price is right. So it's a whole lot easier to do research-wise, and there's more to find than private label. And probably the biggest roadblock for everybody is money. So arbitrage in that sense is a whole lot easier. It's a big pro to me is that you don't need as much to start. Like I said, you could start with $100 if you really wanted to. It's going to be a longer road, but you could do it. Whereas private label, you're coming off a couple of grand at least. I would say 3. I came off 3 and it didn't do anything. So you're going to come up off of thousands, okay? Whereas arbitrage, you could do with hundreds, if that makes sense. Some cons to arbitrage over private label are the margins are smaller because of the fact that you're more than likely, we're not talking about the clearance item you found for $2.99 that's still selling for $30 on Amazon. We're talking about the items that you're restocking every month that are consistent sellers that you're going to keep restocking with, that you may find on sale, or that's just their regular price, but they sell for a higher price on Amazon. Those items' margins are usually lower, okay? And I'll say this, personally, what I've seen is if it's at clearance at Walmart, for example, or Target, and it's selling for a higher price on Amazon, like the regular price, and it's got a good rank, you would almost need to kind of research that data a little longer, because chances are that price is about to drop, because they're not stupid. Amazon sellers on Amazon and Amazon, especially if Amazon's selling it, because they're going to realize that it's on clearance everywhere, and they're going to clearance it out as well. So it's not necessarily easy to do unless you can get rid of it quick. You can flip it quick, get it there quick. Don't buy it and think about it for a week. Send it in immediately. And personally speaking, I think a con to arbitrage is there's more competition. Okay, because and people are gonna disagree with me on that, but I personally think there's more competition in arbitrage simply because the product is already there. And there's most products I sell have, and I try to keep it under 10 competitors, but a lot of times with the good ranked products, that's not a feasible thing. There's going to be at least 10 sellers, so that's 10 people that you're going to be fighting with over the buy box. And if you have a few that are, those types of people we've talked about before that are just pennying the price down, then you're going to be constantly in a price battle with them. So with private label, it's your brand. You're fighting against another brand. You're not fighting against more competitors within your brand. So I think that's a con for arbitrage, is that the competition can be higher, in particular with items that sell good. And probably other than the capital, the biggest reason that arbitrage is not as good as private label is it's harder to scale up. It's going to take you longer to make money, good money, like livable money, but it's also going to be harder to grow, because you're basically going to have to keep finding items. If you have 25 items in your inventory and they're all selling good, guess what? That's where you're at. You're not going to grow with those 25 items. You're going to have to find 25 more to grow. Whereas private label, you find one item, you're at where you're at. Now you find another one, you're at where you're at, and it's growing exponentially because of the fact you're adding items to your line. Whereas arbitrage, it's way more than that. You're going to have to find, whatever you find. If you find 10 items, then that's where you're at. You're going to keep buying those items and keep making that same amount. You're not going to grow any bigger than that without finding more items. So at the end of the day, the point of the video, which one's more profitable? Probably private label over the long term. Which one is easier to get into? Is absolutely arbitrage. Which one has more competition? If you do your research correctly, they both can have low competition. But overall, I think arbitrage has more competition, which people are going to disagree with that, but that's my opinion. Financially speaking, it's not even close. Arbitrage is way cheaper to get involved in, but the risk is bigger with private label, but it also could make you more money, and you could grow from it, have your own brand, all that stuff. So it was just something I wanted to put in you guys' head. Hopefully I wasn't long-winded with it, but just at the end of the day, you're gonna have to weigh your risk and reward. You're gonna have to say, okay, well, I've got this amount, so I can't do this. So you're kind of limited by where you're starting from. It doesn't mean you have to stay in that starting from position. It just means that that's where you're at. You got to be realistic with yourself, with your goals. You can't say, I'm gonna jump into private label and I'm just gonna make millions like Tanner Fox and just be this guy. You're not. You have to start where you're at and grow it that way. It may happen overnight, but it more than likely won't. So expect that it won't, and then grow from that. Like I'm a big glass half full guy, but I'm realistic. When I first jumped into private label, I was thinking this is my first product and it's just gonna make a killing, and it didn't happen. Did I fail at that product? Absolutely. Did I fail at my business? No, because I learned from it and now I'm moving on. That's where I think a lot of people fall into a victimized situation with private label or arbitrage, is that they have a few failures and they're like, crap, this ain't working, and they stop. That's usually when you got to learn from that and move forward. Okay, so like right now, with myself, I got 5 or 6 items that I just knew were going to sell based off rank, competition, all that. And they do sell, but the price is bottomed out, So, I failed at those items, but I have 30, 40 more that are selling good and I find new ones every day, So, it's just tedious. Arbitrage is way more tedious. You're going to have to put in a lot more research as far as working to find product. Um, Arbitrage, I mean, private label, I think is easier to find a product, and that you only have to find that one to start, and then you're finding another one. But you can you can tunnel vision it into one product. Whereas arbitrage, you can't do that. You're going to have to be constantly spreading into different categories and finding this and finding that. You just got to constantly be doing it. So, I mean, it is a lot more work in that sense. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. Hopefully it helps somebody, because I'm telling you, that's my goal with this channel, is to help you not make mistakes that I made and benefit from the information that I've learned so that you can grow as well. You know, I'll show it at the end of the month. I've basically doubled my sales from last month, and it's a good feeling when you know you're doubling your money every month. So, you know, with me doubling this month, I want to double next month, and then you double that next month, and before you know it, you're at 10,000 revenue or 15,000 or whatever it is, and you can start making bigger decisions. You can take bigger risks when you get it up to certain levels. You want to kind of stay risk-free, or it's never going to be risk-free, but if you want to stay as low risk as you can at the beginning in arbitrage, and then when you grow it to a certain level, now you can take bigger risk, you know, and at the end of the day, that's how it's going to grow. You're going to have to take risk, and you're going to have to, you know, limit your losses is the best way to put it. It's true with any business. It's not going to be different here. Okay. So, hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll talk to you Monday. That's when I usually go back to doing videos, but stay focused, man. Keep researching and keep whatever it is you're doing, private label or arbitrage, or if you're like me, you're using arbitrage to get to private label, whatever, stay researching on the front end, and it's going to be easier on the back end. End of the day, easiest for both models. That's the key. So let's all make money together. I mean, it's all there, guys. There's money to be made on this platform. It ain't going anywhere. Amazon ain't going anywhere. So hopefully I'll talk to you guys later.